After 9 years, Hiro Mashima has come back to the fairy tale manga to write and draw it in Weekly Shonen Magazine. Yeah, you heard me right, Fairy Tail's back to being a weekly manga, granted for 9 weeks. And this series, Fairy Tail Fantasia, has just begun with Chapter 1. And the main character, the main focus of this little mini arc that Mashima is putting together for the 20th anniversary of Fairy Tail is LAXUS. And this makes so much sense because the Fantasia Parade is a massive thing in this series. The Harvest Festival and Fantasia were a massive part of the Battle of Fairy Tail arc where LAXUS was the antagonist and when he got expelled from the guild. And now we're starting that back up again with a focus on LAXUS. Now this chapter is mostly just going to be a reintroduction to the guild, especially for those who haven't been reading Hunter's Quest. And it's just us getting to know the guild members again as we set up for the Harvest Festival and eventually the Fantasia Parade, setting us up for potentially a new antagonist that will face off against LAXUS to help give them some extra bits of development for this story. But I've kept you guys waiting long enough. Let's jump straight into Chapter 1 of Fairy Tail Fantasia, titled Words Aren't Enough. And we start the chapter off with, of course, Lucy just getting out of the bath in a bath towel. Mashima, you come back to Fairy Tail fully for the first time in nearly a decade, and you start off with some Lucy fan service. You know what? I can appreciate that. Lucy gets out of the bath, and then we get a double-page spread of just our main characters: Natsu, Lucy, Wendy, Gray, Juvia, Mira, LAXUS, and Urza all the way in the back. As, I'm not gonna lie, the look that we have for Lucy at the front of this color spread actually looks really damn good, and I think has the most, I would say, detail and time put into it in comparison to everybody else, save for the detail of the outfits for Urza and Mira for this color spread. But the chapter immediately begins with Lucy getting out of the bath, only to immediately be met by Natsu and Happy, who are just chilling and eating in her apartment, as per always. With the standard gag of Lucy getting upset that people keep barging into her house, but kind of not really minding it, being a tsundere about it. As we get narration from Lucy, as per always with any Fairy Tail project, just introducing herself as a wizard in Fairy Tail, and Natsu and Happy as other members of Fairy Tail. And Natsu and Happy get right to the point after Lucy asks about why they're here in her apartment right now, as they present a poster for Magnolia's Harvest Festival, as this excites Lucy as it's been a long time since we participated in the Harvest Festival. Well, with the 7-year time jump, the few months of Fairy Tail coming back together with its main members, only for Tartarus to happen and have a whole year of no Fairy Tail, so they didn't take part in the Fantasia Parade or the Harvest Festival at all the year prior. And I just want to mention this now, this is most likely just taking place in the 1-year time gap after the Alvarez arc and before 100 Years Quest begins, and basically before the final chapter of the manga. So, we are finally getting our second Fantasia Parade with Lucy and our main guild members all together. But the interesting thing is that the Miss Fairy Tail pageant is still a thing, and it's coming right back, just like the last parade. And what catches Lucy's eye immediately is that it's a 50,000 jewel prize pool, and that's about 7 months' rent for her. And she says that she's going to enter. But Natsu says that she's going to have to split the prize with him and Happy for a 3-way split, with Happy putting in the joke that him and Natsu will take basically both halves and leave Lucy with nothing. Which, you know what, I love their dynamic so much. I miss these, like, more chill moments. 100 Years Quest has just been, like, non-stop stuff happening back and forth for the last 2 years now since this arc effectively started, and yeah, I kind of miss these little, like, chiller moments. But the reason Happy and Natsu are going to split things with Lucy, or are saying that they're going to split the prize with Lucy if she wins, is that apparently the rules are different. Apparently, they need someone to nominate, someone has to nominate the pageant participants, and there has to be a manager for the pageant participants. So Natsu's going to be the nominator, and Happy's going to be the manager. That's going to make some funny gags, as Happy ends up putting a joke of Lucy needing to go on a diet, and Natsu just saying, hey Lucy, you should learn how to breathe fire. That'll really get the judges going. That'll really get them excited. And that's just classic stupidity for you, and I love it. As we then cut back to the Fairy Tail Guild Hall, and it's been so long since we've seen the guild. Not just drawn by Mashima, But even in 100 Years Quest, it's been a good long minute since we've seen the Guildhall. I think about nearly 3 years, over 3 years now, I think. In 100 Years Quest, we have not seen the Guildhall in so long. This is the longest we've got. I think this is the longest we've had without even cutting back to the guild for like some quick gags or a side story that will lead into the main plot. Closest thing we got were from Fairy Tail members checking out the situation in Giltina with the dragonification of the continent and the people, and sending over Team B over. That is the closest we got to seeing the Guildhall. But this is like our first real look at the Guildhall for the first time in a long time. And who do we meet first when we enter the Guildhall? But Gray and Juvia, with Juvia asking Gray to be her nominator and manager and boyfriend. Juvia, I love you. Keep shooting your shot because it is going to pay off in, at this point, a year's time in universe. So keep at it, girl. But this is kind of something I have to point out. Juvia looks so weird in this introduction shot of her. Like, her character design looks like so flat and minimalist. And this isn't even done for like the real gag, if I'm being honest. Because like, she just looks like there's no detail put into her at all. I know Mashima has like the more softer style that he's implemented into Dead Rock, but between from this chapter, honestly, Mashima kind of has less detail in his characters, and it feels like he didn't have time to properly put more detail, and so he went a quicker route with a lot of the panels and character designs in this chapter, which is why he is fully going into his more softer style, because it is probably going to be easier for him to go weekly again with this, even if it is for 9 weeks. But it could also just be the fact that this chapter was probably being worked on at the same time as the last chapter of Dead Rock before the hiatus till the winter. And while he was penning for 100 Years Quest, getting ready for the 20th anniversary stuff, so like that could be it in the next couple of chapters. Will be a lot more consistent with the art style with all the character designs. But Gray fully rejects Juvia for being the manager thing because he's already Urza's nominator. Because in his mind, well, Urza won last year, so yeah, this is going to be a sure thing. And Urza is just really loving this. He's saying that no matter what, she's going to win, and she's not the losing type. And the manager is Loki. Nice to see him again. It's been even in 100 Years Quest, it has been a good minute since we've seen Loki show up. And he's in his classic, original, nice coat and glasses that we have seen him wear previously. I guess Mashima just wanted to draw Loki in his classical design. Same with some other characters, so you know what? I appreciate it. But Juvia is obviously heartbroken, asking what she should do now and who can nominate him here manager, as Gray, like an idiot, points towards Makao and Wakaba as they're perving over Juvia, and she is crying away from them because they do reek of cigarettes and booze. And then after this, Urza, giddy to participate in the contest, decides let's do some real special training for this event. As Gray is wondering what kind of training, but Loki is simping over Urza and just calling her big sis, and Gray immediately stripped off screen, which is hilarious. With our next cut, and person that we're going to meet again, is Wendy, who is staring off into nothingness. With us meeting Carla again, as Carla's asking what's wrong with Wendy, and Wendy just says, well, when it comes to stuff like this fairy tale, the people who win and get more attention are the ones with the quote-unquote big chest and stuff, as she grumbles in disappointment. I'm not gonna lie though, Wendy obsessing over her chest gag is not really funny. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of the only real gag of fairy tale that doesn't really end up being a laugh at this point. I get the idea of it, but I just don't find it funny. It's also not really helped by the fact that immediately after she says this, Mast of all characters shows up and tells Wendy that she doesn't get the whole beauty content thing, because that's not all a woman's charm is. As Carla immediately grabs Wendy away from Mest and says that, well, he's not wrong, but let's get away from him. As Mest is just shocked. Mashima knows. He knows no one likes Mest. He knows that the anime made Mest into a fucking creep. And he's playing into it for the laughs. Because he wants to troll us. Like they have never interacted in the main manga outside of one instance, and the fact that Mest was undercover. He has not shown anything towards Wendy in any way, and this is very creepy, even for a gag. I hate that Mashima is just doing this just to poke and prod at the audience and troll us. I know I'm complaining about Mest, but he is definitely my least favorite character in the entire goddamn story, which is a shame because the story, up until like the Wendy things, is honestly pretty interesting. But let's move away from that mess of a legal situation that is Mest, as we jump right into Gajiel, Levy, and Panther Lily's introduction, as they are entering Levy in the beauty pageant, with Gajiel most likely being the manager, and Panther Lily being the nominator. Actually, swap that. Gajiel is the nominator, and Panther Lily being the manager. But all Gajiel thinks is sticking it to Natsu, and making it so that Levy can actually win in the fight with pure force, if it comes down to it. With Levy saying that it's not that sort of contest. We then get a quick peek at Alzak, Biska, and their daughter Asuka, as Biska's not entering this year, as they then meet up with Jet and Joy as they're lamenting the fact that Levy was taken up by Gajiel. And so they're wondering who else they could end up nominating. As we see our town drunk Kana with her one true love, a barrel full of booze, as she is drunk off her ass as, yeah, you know what, Jet and Joy decide, yeah, Kana seems like a pretty sure bet also for this pageant, let's nominate her. We then see Warren and Max go and team up with Loki so she can enter, and then Kiana is approached by Ritas and Vegeta, but Kiana says that she's not entering the competition. Honestly, good idea. I don't know how Cobra would react to a bunch of people staring at his future fiancé. Actually, are they engaged at this point? I know they're engaged during 100 Years Quest before the Irrational Seis jump to Giltina to help against like Ferris's forces and Igneous forces. Are they engaged at this point? I'm curious. We then cut to the Strauss siblings as Lazana and Elfman are nominating Mira for the competition. Again, another surefire win, potentially. Like a real big candidate would be Mira. And so far, we are stacked for candidates. Romeo pops up and asks why Lazana isn't entering, but Lazana says she's not really cut out for it, with Elfman trying to just pump her up to take part. Also, I'm not gonna lie, based off of the two images that we saw of Elfman in these just two panels, Mashima went back to his like original design for Elfman, which is weird because even in 100 Years Quest, he is still buff as hell. So it could just be the fact that Mashima hasn't drawn all these characters in a good long while, and he went back to just classic designs for simplicity's sake for some of these characters, maybe. But after the pumping up to try and get Lazana to enter, Mira looks over to Master Makarov as he is kind of lamenting things. And he is also in his like Wizard Saint garb with his old staff, which has been a long time since you've seen him like hold that since like the first couple of arcs of OG Fairy Tail. But Mira looks and just realizes why Master Makarov is kind of a bit upset, because now that the Harvest Festival is coming around, he remembers the Battle of Fairy Tail, as we get a really nice collage of some big moments from the Battle of Fairy Tail arc, when LAXUS tried to overthrow the guild and forced everybody to fight each other, up until his expulsion. Makarov just thinks of LAXUS, as LAXUS is staring down at the town of Magnolia, as we get a full page introducing him as the main character of this book, as he is then just lamenting this time of year as it brings back bad memories, thinking his actions over from what he did when he almost destroyed the guild. But as he's thinking this over and just basically coming to terms with everything he's done once more, the Thunder Legion show up, saying that everyone's going to enter the contest, and that everybody should that they should bring LAXUS over and he should enjoy the festival with them. But LAXUS isn't really sure, but the Thunder Legion kind of figured he'd say that, not that they have any room to talk anyway. And I also like that Evergreen is kind of pissed, because now she needs to make sure that she beats Urza this year. But to break tension, Natsu comes shouting out to LAXUS, saying to fight him, charging up a Fire Dragon's Iron Fist, as Lucy's just barely tagging along to try and keep Natsu from starting another dumb fight. But LAXUS stops Natsu's fist with just one hand, as he asks Natsu what's going on. As Natsu then charges up another flaming fist to hit LAXUS, but in a single page, LAXUS then just slams him down with the exact same hand he blocked, with a massive thunderbolt frying Natsu to the ground, kinda beating him with one hit. Mashima keeping his classic power structure of Fairy Tail intact. Now let's be honest, Natsu's in base, and he's not being like serious to actually beat him in terms of a real true life or death fight. and LAXUS casually one-shotting Natsu is a gag that we had back in the OG days, which I kind of find hilarious. Because back in OG Fairy Tail, LAXUS would constantly be pestered to fight by Natsu, and then LAXUS would just hit him one time with lightning and Natsu would be out of the count. But Natsu's this time is actually still conscious and is wobbling up saying, "You really think that'd work?" With Lucy pointing out, "Yeah, no, that definitely worked right there." He then brings up the beauty pageant contest for the girls of Fairy Tail, and then brings up to LAXUS, "Hey, why don't the guys have a fighting contest instead?" With LAXUS being drawn very much like Elfman for this comedic effect, and that's kind of where I say the art is rough in some spots, especially for this comedic thing with LAXUS. I feel like that it wouldn't look like that, how LAXUS would usually be drawn by MASHIMA, but it is what it is. But LAXUS kind of is lamenting this because he was actually nervous about Natsu saying that or starting a fighting tournament, as Lucy realizes what Natsu just said was stupid, and the Thunder Legion are completely flabbergasted that Natsu brought this shit up. And Natsu, ever being the dumbass, does not realize what's going on. As they're saying, look, think about how LAXUS feels. Even though they have no room to talk, as LAXUS just tells Natsu to go ahead and have fun without him. And Natsu's just trying to goad LAXUS into a fight or to come to the festival, saying, look, if you run away, I win then. With LAXUS continuing to walk away, with the Thunder Legion and Lucy kind of looking lamentingly as he walks away from the group. But Natsu trying to bring the situation back up, saying, oh, he walked away? That means I win. But Natsu, ever being the more, I would say, emotionally intelligent character, when it counts, ends up telling LAXUS that he better join in the Fantasia parade this year, because at the end of the festival, they are going to be doing the classic Fairy Tail sign, as Natsu makes the sign with LAXUS waving at him, with a brief flashback of a child LAXUS from the OG manga coming up with the sign that Fairy Tail has now used as their own sign. And that is honestly genuinely sweet, as we get a brief glimpse of LAXUS and Makarov of opposing points, as we cut back to the middle of Magnolia, as it is hustling and bustling in prep for the festival, as we see a mysterious man in a robe walk into an alleyway, as he sees what looks like a homeless man, or perhaps a traveler just resting on the side of the road, as this mysterious man waves his hand, saying, "Man, what a beautiful town. I wish you wouldn't ruin the view." And as he waves his hand, the old man disappears. As he has a smirk on his face, as in a 2-page spread, we get the reveal of a brand new character, saying unsightly things should disappear. Just you wait, Fairy Tail. And Eraser of the Orationseis Galactica from Eden Zero, is that you? Jokes aside, this flat out just looks like Eraser from Eden Zero. Even with the ether marking on his left eye, I believe that is almost identical to what Eraser looks like. And I feel like Mosh was definitely pulling from the kit of character designs from other series just to plant into others, just for the sake of having fun. And he probably didn't want to design another whole new villain for a short 9-page manga. But it is what it is. But this is obviously going to be our antagonist for this short publication, who will be a fight against LAXUS, and will probably be the big defining point of the arc, where LAXUS comes to terms with everything he's done, and realizes it's okay for him to just be around and take part in this massive festivity with the guild and the town, and to forgive himself for the sins of his past. I think that's where this arc is definitely going, and this villain is most 100% going to have to test LAXUS. And based on his abilities, it looks like he can either teleport stuff to a different realm or completely erase them. Who knows? This is going to be pretty overpowered if it goes the way I think it's going to go. But the chapter then starts to end with another narration from Lucy, saying, unbeknownst to us, it had quietly begun to move, a great darkness that would threaten our town. All this as Lucy is carrying an unconscious Natsu back home, and we just get another glimpse of our main cast as the chapter ends. Now then, as a reintroduction to the world of Fairy Tail drawn and written by MASHIMA at the same time on a weekly magazine, I think this was fine. It was literally just catching up with the guild mates again, coming back to the guild hall in Magnolia, and setting up an arc for LAXUS, and giving us a new antagonist. Now, I've seen a lot of people have this whole discourse over MASHIMA's new art style. MASHIMA can make some insanely detailed drawings with a lot of depth and sharp lines and detail and inking when it counts and when he wants to. The softer style that he's going with for Weeb Fantasia right now is probably the style he's going for right now to make a weekly serialization easier on him. The man's 50. The man's pushing 50. And he is going back to a weekly release. So he's definitely going to go to the art style that is giving him the least amount of trouble drawing, because he's still doing a lot with the background art especially. And like we saw with the clash between Natsu and LAXUS, and especially that one page of LAXUS bringing down the thunder on Natsu, MASHIMA can put in the detail and really good shading and depth whenever he wants to. But now I feel like with the next 8 chapters of the story for the next 2 months, we will most likely get more consistent detail. That Juvia image from her first introduction in this story is just like, it really feels like MASHIMA didn't have enough time to draw her full, because the design just looks like very minimalist and not in a good way for MASHIMA. That's really my only nitpick of this chapter. Also, in terms of art style, the Deadrock art style I am liking a lot more, but that's also because MASHIMA does that manga once a month, so he has more time to work on it and add more detail, and having to add some extra sharper edges when he needs to. It's still his softer style, but he's putting more time into it, adding more depth and detail when he needs to, in comparison to right now, where we're going with the more softer style to make it easier on him for the weekly release. But let me know what you guys think of this chapter, the art style that MASHIMA is going for these chapters. How do you think things are going to go with LAXUS? Do you think this is going to be a really fun adventure, or do you think this is just going to be like a forgettable side mission that can be turned into an OVA for an anime at some point in the future, like I've seen like very few people mention? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps and ensures you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to support the channel more directly, either become a channel member or check out my Patreon link in the description, where by joining at the first tier of membership, you'll get access to my patron-only Discord server and monthly exclusive manga chapter reviews of Ichi the Witch every single month. I'm going to be covering that on my Patreon, make it more worth it for you guys to go check it out. And also, it is an easy place for me to post stuff talking about Weekly Shonen Jump manga without having to worry about being copyright struck by Shueisha all the time and that fear happening. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Check out the Patreon if you ever get the chance to. And with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.